I want to continue my discussion regarding China-Pakistan economic corridor. In the previous discussion, I told about how the revenue generation of cpec can actually influence the entire security perspective of the South Asian nations. In this video, I just want to elaborate it further. We can see that when cpec will be operationalized in 2025, I think so, then immense amount of revenue generation will occur through, we can say, energy import and export. So Pakistan actually will act as a transit hub for the energy supply. So Pakistan economy can be benefited through the tariffs, or we can say the customs that is being generated, or the we can say infrastructure that Pakistan is sharing with the greater cpec infrastructure, and uh, revenues that can be generated from the land leasing or the machinery leasing agreements that will be done. So we can say that revenue will be in billions. So we can say that the actual Pakistani GDP will, or the Pakistani growth will actually increase. So how will it affect the nations, especially we can say India? We can see that the security or the entire political scenario of Pakistan is not democratized. Uh, First of all, we can see that there is no any legacy in Pakistan regarding democratization, unless in India, which have a glorious legacy in terms of pre-independence movements and the principles that it adopted, such as Gandhian socialism, or we can say Vallabhbhai Patel's right-based agendas, and even VD Savarkar's right-wing attitude. But in Pakistan, no such actual formal or a pre-existing ideology was existing actually existed. Everything happened dramatically, and it was a part of a negotiation, a contractual agreement between India and the imperialist powers. So whatever happened, so whatever constitution has been made, there is a predominance of military influence in it, and hence it can be seen also lately that the Pakistani generals and the Pakistani army have a significant control over the revenue, over the political and developmental decision making, especially in cases of urbanization, because lately we can see urbanization is also occurring in Pakistan, but unless in India, where PPP models or external investors are coming, it is not happening in Pakistan. And also it is notably to see that it is kind of a feedback mechanism for Pakistan, because we can see that lately the Financial Action Task Force of UN has blacklisted Pakistan because Pakistan harbors terrorism. So we can see that external revenue generation will be very less in Pakistan. Investors will be not willing to invest in Pakistan, because the goodwill or the rating of Pakistan that has been done by these agencies has fallen below the standards of investability. So what will happen is, now the domestic generals or the domestic control will happen more, and once the domestic control will happen more, then we can say weaponization and also terrorist harboring will happen more, and again the investability will deteriorate. So this is actually a coercive control mechanism by Pakistan and even China in certain aspects, which is actually directing towards destabilizing the entire South Asian continent. So it is not so there might be a concern that Pakistan wants to lift itself from whatever stigma that the Financial Action Task Force has, or the UN resolution has instigated, or we can say, or thrown towards Pakistan. But to my analysis, there is a significant element, or there is a significant proportion of Pakistani decision makers and Pakistani policy makers who don't want a clear cut reconciliation of the process of terrorist harboring. And yes, cpec and the revenue generation is one of the primary concerns of these policy makers. So actually we can see the linkage between sanctions, economic sanctions in Pakistan, and Pakistan's ability, or the Pakistan's intention to harbor terrorism, and also the greater goal of cpec. Yeah, so we can see how can this particular thing can affect Pakistan, or how Pakistan can enable these things, what will be the channels through which Pakistan will enable it. The first channel according to me will be nuclearization, because lately we can see that most of the nations are undergoing brinkmanship approach of nuclearization. Within it, the deterrence that was or the deterrence element of nuclearization has been made more refined, so that any form of pinpointing by other nations towards its nuclear program do not take place, or in other words, a form of legitimacy. They want to form a layer of legitimacy regarding weaponization. We can see in the case of USA, in which USA is deploying nuclear arsenals towards targeting underground bases, and these underground bases are lately, and USA is actually giving the judgment that it will be influential towards its war in Middle East and Syria, because Syrian rebels are basically, we can say, they don't have any technological input, but underground bases are a part of it, are a major force rationalization of Syrian rebels. So this is one point. And also India, we can see that India is deploying its submarines and also nuclearizing its submarines, and India has provided the legitimate reason that it want to counter China in the process. Lately China's OBOR project and string of pearls initiative, but what is the actual intention, on how much actuality is prevalent in India's legitimacy is a point of concern, because inherently India too wants to be a force enabler of the IOR region, especially when India adheres towards being the net security provider of the Indian Ocean region. So yes, this is the brinkmanship approach. So how can Pakistan enable it? Pakistan can make its weapons more tactical in nature, so that it can hit specific Indian cities, specific Indian bases, just like the coal-start doctrine, or we can say surgical strike that India is implementing. So brinkmanship approach of Pakistan can act as quite a legitimate reason for Pakistan. So this is one point, and the other point is the actuality of cpec around the region of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, because now Pakistan can actually deploy both manpower and resources towards destabilizing Kashmir in a more direct way, because earlier everything was covered in nature. There were few leaders scattered in the POK who were having an indirect influence towards the entire issue of Kashmir, we can say the Jamhuriyat. But now there can be a direct confluence of leaders with the youths because of the cpec platform. Why we can say that nowadays, because now the leaders do not have to get situated in a particular isolated base. There can be a easy mobility among the leaders from Pakistan to India through the cpec corridor. So in the advantage of mobility, there is no need to create any covert bases actually, because you don't have to actually take part as a sleeper cell in this regard. Sleeper cell only arises, and to make the sleeper cell more we can say more covert and more secretive, an indirect approach is done, and that is what actually is happening. But now actually the sleeper cells ideology will actually go away and direct confrontation can happen. But actually this is a positive implication for India, because now India can if the monitoring efficiency of India and the force deployment of India in Kashmir is quite effective, then there can be reason for direct intervention, and we can say direct victimization of Kashmir, direct victimization of Pakistan by actual capturing of militants. So militant capturing will be a very great opportunity according to me after cpec. India can actually checkmate Pakistan in this regard, but it is a very ideological scenario